Good evening, traders. This is CloudChartist with your weekly Ichimoku wrap for Sunday night, January 22nd. No, wait, sorry, 29th. Geez, time is going quickly. It's almost the end of the month. I never seem to know what date it is on the weekends, which is probably a good thing. If you're new to my videos, you might notice that my neighbor's dog is going nuts in the background. Hopefully it won't bother you, and hopefully you won't hear it at all, but I can hear it. So we're going to start off looking at the ES on the weekly time frame. We see ES has been in a lovely uptrend, just some nice organized pullbacks. It's currently maintaining a breakout from this bull flag type pattern, and it's maintaining above the weekly Tenkan-sen, which is key. So it's technically bullish in all ways Ichimoku. You know, the RSI is not yet overbought. We have a nice thick rising cloud, which is exactly what you want to see if you are bullish on a longer term time frame. You can see that we do have the cloud coming to a peak right here in the beginning of March, and then a long flat space all the way through till like last week of April. Then we have a little bit of dip into the beginning of May, and then a nice rising cloud into through the summer. That is not necessarily what the market is going to do, but it is what the market could do. When we see a flat in Ichimoku, that's usually an area of consolidation, and potentially if price gets close to flats in Ichimoku, it tends to be magnetically attracted to it. But in order for us to pull back all the way down to this flat cloud space, we would need to lose the support of the Tenkan-sen and most likely the Kijun-sen as well. And we haven't done that yet, and I will definitely inform you if that happens. So currently, we see a bit of a topping tail on this week's candle. We did, hit the Dow 20,000 level, and then the market got really hesitant. The volume dropped, the VIX dropped. I think a lot of traders are really unsure what to do here. But the trend is still up, and things are still bullish until proven otherwise. If we do get a reversal to the downside, we can look for support at the Tenkan-sen, which is currently located at 22.3925, but in approximately 43 minutes when the market reopens, we can expect that probably the Tenkan-sen will be higher, reflecting this upward momentum of last week's candle. So I would guess that the Tenkan-sen could even be up here at this 22, let's call it 22.52 area. So wherever the Tenkan-sen is, you can look for support there for the ES. Let's look at some other U.S. stock indexes. Let's look at the Dow next. Why don't we? Because I just mentioned it. So we see a really nice uptrend here. I'll zoom in a little bit closer. It's nice to see the larger picture. We see this nice bull flag and then this breakout. I personally don't usually do measured moves on bull flags, but some people do. And if we were to call this the flagpole, then we definitely have a fair amount higher to go before further consolidation or pullback. If we do pull back, we have the Tenkan-sen, just like in the ES chart, at 19,384 or wherever it opens up next time. The Dow futures are still slightly over 20,000, just by 15 points. So we'll see what effect that 20,000 number has on the psychology of the market. Unlike the ES, the RSI is in a state of overbought. If I pull it up, you can see more clearly that it was more overbought here. And as we put in a little bit of a pullback, a very small pullback, we got out of the overbought condition, and then we broke out, which is just interesting to note. But we are still overbought here. Chances are we could get significantly more overbought before we get a correction, probably more, maybe test this prior overbought level. We'll see. That's a guess. So anyway, stash that RSI back away again. do have this nice supportive rising cloud just like with the ES. Let's look at the Russell. The Russell, less bullish than the ES, and the Dow, it failed to put in a new high, but it does have a nice bull flag still. It did come down and trade underneath the Tenkan Sen temporarily. We do have a flat Tenkan Sen here and a flat Kijun Sen here, which suggests consolidation, sideways consolidation. As long as we do hold the Tenkan Sen, though, we're still fully bullish in Ichimoku terms. Oh, nice. My neighbor stopped barking. That's wonderful. Or my neighbor's dog stopped barking, I should say. My neighbor is not barking at his dog either, which is nice. So we do have a bit of a topping tail here on the Russell. Let me zoom in a little bit more. That is pretty significant because the topping tail is a bit bigger than the bottoming tail, but as long as we stay above the Tenkan Sen, we're still good to go in the bullish section. But obviously, you know, we've been having a hard time getting above, let's call it, I don't know, we could say 1400 level. That's a bit of a stretch. 1390 level. It's been difficult to trade above. We've got a lot of topping tails in that area so far. So we'll see what happens when we get up and test that 1390, 1400 level again. Maybe all the pundits will be going Russell 1400 and getting their hats ready and stuff like that. We shall see. If we do lose the Tenkan Sen and end up trading between the Tenkan Sen and the Kijun Sen, then that would be a defined trading range we can work with. In that kind of situation, I often like to, first of all, look at other potential horizontal levels that we have to work with, like this high here of 1348, this level, which was previously resistance and then became support around 1315, thereabouts, 1312. This level here, around 1282, thereabouts. But you can also run fibs in between the Tenkan Sen and the Kijun Sen. That's what I like to do also. And I'm going to draw them over here just so we can see how they interact with the other levels that I just mentioned. This is a little micro Ichimoku level. So you can see that the 61.8 level is perfect for that level that I mentioned before. The 23.6 level is perfect for this level that I mentioned before. And that's why I like to do this. Because having these fit, and it's hard to see, I realize, because there's not a lot of space between these fibs, so it's hard to see which is which. But you get the concept of what I like to do, right? All right, I'm just gonna abandon this chart, and I hope you get that. If you have any questions about what I just did, feel free to ask me questions. You can ask me in the comment section below on YouTube, or hit me up on Twitter, ask questions. I'm happy to answer. All right, let's look at the NASDAQ. NASDAQ looking super bullish. Look at that. I mean, it hardly even consolidated sideways when all the other indexes did. And it just put in this one potential reversal candle last week, and then it did not reverse, but instead broke out to new all-time highs, 51.6850. 6850 is a psych number, so that'd be interesting to see how whether that level holds or gets broken to the upside. Both the Tenkan Sen and the Kijun Sen are pointing up, reflecting the momentum of this move, and will be even higher. I'm going to guess that the Tenkan Sen might even be up around 5,000. We do have this nice rising cloud support here, and then a leveling off starting in like the middle of March. So you can keep an eye on that. We're not overbought on the RSI for the NASDAQ. So let's see, did I do all the indexes? I think I did all the indexes. So let's move on to some commodities. Oh no, sorry, let's do crude next. Don't want to have to keep my crude people waiting until the end of the video. I know they're impatient because they only trade crude mostly. A lot of crude traders only trade crude. So looking at crude last week, I pointed out that it was in this triangle pattern. I think I drew that on a shorter time frame, and indeed the candle ended up like perfectly I can't remember the right term, but like embedded in the apex of this triangle, let's call it that. So a bit of indecision in the crude market right here, but as long as we continue to keep holding this trend line, I feel that it's entirely possible that the inverse head and shoulders setup might actually work out. but we will wait and see. We did have a higher high and a higher low last week, so the trend is up. And we are a bit extended above the Tenkan-sen, and the Tenkan-sen is flat here. It's possible that when the new candle opens up, however, it will get a little tip up in it. I wouldn't be surprised because we did put in a new high and a new low and a higher low. Thin body size. We also had the thin body size, definitely reflects the indecision in the market here. RSI is doing nothing in particular. If I do go down to a shorter time frame, it might be easier to see why I drew that triangle. So indeed, we did have a nice solid breakout above the triangle, and then a fail of the breakout that actually failed the bottom of the triangle too, and came down, found support at the 4-hour cloud, and then caught a bounce. We haven't yet made it above the 4-hour Tenkan-sen. This is really typical for crude to break out of triangles this way. It loves to break out of triangles, get everybody bulled up, then sell really hard. I've seen that so many times before. I'm sure if you trade crude, you have noticed that kind of breakout and fail yourself. All right, that's about all I have to say for crude. I gave you the bonus 4-hour there. Let's go back to the weekly time frame and let's look at some metals. How about that? Let's look at gold. I drew these fibs last week for a little bit more clarity here, and it's really interesting because this level where gold has found resistance is actually the 50% of this range that we've been trading in since all year, since 2015. So it's interesting that we have been rejected from the 50% fib here, and that we're kind of in a trading range. Let me zoom in a little bit closer. We're kind of in a trading range between the 50% and the 38.2. 38.2 happens to coincide with this important level where the Chikou previously found resistance at the top of the cloud, but then ended up breaking out, went exactly to the 50%, and then got rejected there. So that just shows you that there's some really juicy, good information coming off the Ichimoku charts themselves, and then adding fibs just took them to a whole new level here. And so that's fantastic. And all of the people out there that watch this video that mostly do fibs and don't really do Ichimokus are probably going, ooh, that's cool. All right, so if gold does trade lower, we do have this prior area that was previously support and then also previously resistance that could come into play again around 1176. And then below that we have the Tenkan-sen at 1172.20. And then this, resistance up at that 1250 level is just going to be resistance until it's not. But gold is still technically bearish in all ways Ichimoku. The fact that the Chikou is above the cloud is a little bit of a good sign if you are a gold bull or want to be long gold here. In other words, it could be worse if the Chikou was also stuck under the cloud. If we were to lose the Tenkan-sen here and trade back down like around these lows, like around the 1130 area, then the Chikou would be in trouble because the Chikou would break through the cloud to the downside, and then it would be stuck under there, and then it would be coming into resistance at this underside of this cloud here. But I'm projecting multiple weeks into the future because right now the Chikou is going to be here. So it's going to have support down here at around 1146, 1147. Wherever the Chikou has support, price action has support also. But that would be significantly lower, and that would mean a loss of the Tenkan-sen support at 1172 and also this 1176-ish level. That's a pretty thick cloud here. It's the thicker the cloud, the harder it is to get above or get through. And so if gold does actually reverse and get bought and go to the upside, if it does break into the cloud, it's going to be moving pretty slow while it's still in the cloud. That's just the nature of the cloud. Kind of like, I guess, I think of like an airplane flying through a cloud. Maybe, you have more particulate water particles in there. It's going to put more drag on the plane. It's going to put more drag on the price action inside the cloud, or sometimes I think of it as quicksand, but it definitely tends to put a drag on price action, tends to slow stuff down. And anytime price is inside the cloud, it's considered neutral. All right, let's look at silver. You might have noticed my neighbor's dog is barking again. Its name is Pippi, by the way. And if I'm really lucky, my neighbor will come outside and start yelling, Pippi! Pippi! But we'll see. All right, looking at silver, we see we are in a similar situation to gold. We're between the Tenkan-sen here and the cloud here. Silver looking weaker in Ichimoku terms than gold in that it didn't even break into the cloud at all. It didn't even test the cloud yet. So the cloud test would be at 1742, and we just didn't make it there. Last week we failed to put in a new high, and we put in a new low, so the trend is still down. Although we have a very, this is a long-legged doji, very small candle body last week. So we'll see what happens, but we're definitely going to have some significant resistance up there at the bottom of the cloud at 1742, and support at the Tenkan-sen below at 1651, 1652, thereabouts. If we do trade below the Tenkan-sen on silver, then we can look at this prior support level around 1578, and then the Chikou is going to come into support down here at 1569, so you can look at that level as well. All right, let's look at some treasuries. I notice we have 9 minutes till the market opens. I'm trying to get done before that. So looking at the 30-year treasury, ZB, we had some interesting action last week. We got quite a bit of bearishness in the treasuries in the beginning of the week, and then the last couple days we got a bounce, but we were unable to close in a fairly small range in the last few days of treasuries. We were unable to close above the Tenkan-sen. The Tenkan-sen's at 150.17, and we closed at 150.14. So any close below is important. So we're still in bearish in all ways Ichimoku as far as the 30-year Treasury bonds go. If we do manage to get back above that 150.17 level, then we could trade in a range all the way up to the Kijun-sen and then the cloud. We do have a lot of topping tails in this area here around 152. We do have a gap fill, I call it an open body gap fill. We don't have any candle bodies in this area all the way up to this candle body, which is at 152.29. So that could be an area of resistance too if we do get a bounce to the upside. Let's look at the 10-year. 10-year actually did put in a close above the Tenkan-sen, and I was actually trading the 10-year last week and keeping a solid eye. I posted some charts intraday on that. I was keeping a solid eye on that 123.30 level, and also there was a daily Tenkan-sen involved as well. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, there was a daily Kijun-sen involved as well. And we closed, you can see, this is Friday's candle here on the daily. We closed just one tick below the Kijun-sen, so that's kind of significant. We closed at 124.045, and the Kijun-sen's at 124.050. Bearish on the daily in Ichimoku terms, and we do have the cloud coming in lower, so it will be important to see if we can get over the Kijun-sen, or if not, the cloud is going to reject price lower. This is what the daily cloud for the week looks like. So unless price can get into the cloud, it's going to be pressed lower by that edge of the cloud. That's a little extra time frame ZN advice. We have this gap fill above here, this open body gap all the way up to 125.080. That needs to get filled at some point, so we could do that. Note that we have a lot of topping tails in that area, so we could fill that gap and then get rejected there. It's one potential scenario. We have a flat Kijun Sen above. We have a flat cloud above. So price could be attracted back up to the cloud and then get rejected there. That's up at 129.240. I don't expect that to happen this week. Maybe eventually as things roll along, but we'd need to get some risk off in order for that to happen. So seems somewhat unlikely here. Let's see, what else should we look at? Let's look at Tesla, because we all love Tesla. Tesla, you know, it has this gorgeous uptrend, but hasn't been that easy to trade. You know, Tesla is it's not very liquid. A lot of the buying and selling of institutions occurs in black boxes or after hours or in ways that you can't see. I've been trading Tesla since the IPO myself. So I did buy that IPO. I wish I still owned it from the IPO and hadn't traded it at all in between. I probably wouldn't be talking to you. I'd be on my island somewhere. But we noticed that we're up in this area that we had prior resistance back in last year at the highs up here around 255. We put in the spike high all the way up to, let's see what that was, like 269.34 was that high, but these spikes are over 255, so we're right back in that zone. So we'll see what happens. It looks like after this really strong uptrend that it could use some a pullback sideways action. We have a few gaps to fill in between here. We do have since we made this move so fast, the Tenkan Sen is all the way down here at 219.23. Kijun Sen is just slightly under it at 218.33. So I would really like to see some sideways action for Tesla. I would be quite scared to buy it up here. I'm gonna just leave it alone and watch for the time being myself. I don't have any current position at the moment. Let's look at copper. I didn't even look at copper last week, but everybody was talking about it, and I didn't even look at it at all. So the copper is actually looking bullish here. This is a pretty messed up looking cloud, reflecting weird price action that's been happening in copper in the past. The cloud is quite a bit lower going into May, so it's important that copper stays above the Tenkan Sen, because who knows what could happen if it loses this support. We could trade down back towards the cloud. But so far, looking pretty good, pretty bullish. I expect that we'll have a smaller range above the Tenkan Sen, and then perhaps this could lead to a bullish break higher, but we'll see what happens. And let's take a look at corn, and then I'll wrap it up. Corn has been, trading above this trend line that I drew, and also remaining above the Tenkan Sen. Last week we were unable to make a new high, or we did make a new high, sorry. We made a new high, but we were unable to hold that high, and we traded, back down, but we're still, we closed above the prior low, so we still are in a solid uptrend, and if we do trade lower, you can see that the Tenkan Sen will offer support down low. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Tenkan Sen actually be flat when the new weekly candle opens. Maybe the Tenkan Sen will be pretty confluent with this, with my trend line as well. So maybe we can look for support at around 357, something like that. That would be kind of a nice buy point, actually, because we're not going to have any real reckoning until we get. And I mean by reckoning with this serious cloud that's coming up here, we're not going to have that for a few weeks. So we could, sort of continue this sideways zigzag above the trend line for a while, and then we have a thin cloud here above. So if price is going to break out to the upside, this would be a really beautiful place for that to happen, and that would be like the first week of February, something like that. So in a couple weeks. All right, I'm going to wrap up the video. We have 1 minute till the market opens. Thank you very much for watching. If you're interested in learning more about Ichimoku or how to trade with Ichimoku, I do teach in a chat room setting. You're welcome to check out my website at cloudchartist.com, or hit me up on Twitter or in the comment section below here on YouTube. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.